Everybody out here trying to be somebody else. You on social media, Trina, copy his grind, her success, his style, and you wonder why your life ain't working. You wonder why you waking up tired, frustrated, drained. Because you living in someone else's identity. You're exhausted, not from the grind, but from pretending. Let me say it clear, you can't win pretending to be somebody else. You gotta own your identity. You gotta stop running from who you are and start walking into who you're becoming. See, the world told you who you were supposed to be. Family gave you labels. Teachers boxed you in. Friends gave you nicknames that stuck to your soul. And you accepted it, but today you break that cycle. You are not the name they gave you in middle school. You are not the mistake you made in 2019. You are not your failures, your trauma, your past. Listen to me, you are what you fight for. You are your bounce back. You are your hunger. You are your discipline when nobody's watching. You are your truth when everyone else is lying. You keep waiting for permission to be you. Stop it. Stop apologizing for being real. Stop diluting yourself to fit in rooms that were never built for your greatness. You don't need approval when you already got purpose. The real you, that's where the power lies. That's where the fire starts. And the moment you stop hiding behind fake identities, you begin to walk with authority. See, when you own your identity, you stop being controlled. You don't chase clout, you carry conviction. You don't look for applause, you bring impact. You don't just show up, you show out. Because when you own your name, when you honor your truth, when you protect your legacy, that's when people start recognizing your worth. But it starts with you looking in the mirror and saying, I'm not perfect, but I'm real. I'm not where I want to be, but I know exactly who I am, and that's my superpower. You can't win if you don't know who you are. That's the truth. That's the starting line. See, most people are out here chasing dreams, chasing goals, chasing validation from people who don't even know themselves. You're trying to win a race, but you don't even know what lane you belong in. You're copying other people's strategies, mimicking their moves, following their routines, but the problem is, they're playing their game and you're not even on the right field. You're wearing someone else's jersey, someone else's number, someone else's name, and expecting the scoreboard to favor you. That's not how life works. You gotta get to a place where you stop asking the world who you are and start telling the world exactly who you are. That's where power comes from, not imitation, not validation, not popularity, identity. You've been conditioned to believe you're not enough. From the moment you could walk, they started placing labels on you. Too loud, too quiet, too big, too small, too emotional, too cold. They told you what to believe, what to chase, how to act, how to talk, how to walk. You went to school and they graded your worth based on how well you conformed. But you weren't born to conform. You were born to transform. And the transformation starts when you stop hiding and start owning who you really are. Because the truth is, you're not here to be a carbon copy. You're not here to walk in anyone's shadow. You're here to create your own lane, even if that means walking alone. Stop playing small just to make other people comfortable. Stop dumbing yourself down because you don't want to stand out. Stop shrinking when you're supposed to expand. You've got a gift. I don't care what anybody said. You've got value. And the moment you stop trying to impress and start to express, you begin to unlock it. You begin to access that part of yourself that doesn't care what they think. That part that says, I'm not changing my voice. I'm not changing my name. I'm not changing my dream. I'm not watering myself down to make you feel better. I'm going to own who I am fully, boldly, loudly, because if I don't, the world will assign me a role I was never built to play. See, when you don't own your identity, you become a slave to opinion. You become a puppet. One day you're this version of you, the next day you're another. You start adapting to everyone's expectations and lose sight of your purpose, but purpose don't come from pretending. Purpose comes from alignment. It comes when your actions match your calling, when your decisions reflect your truth, when you stop lying to yourself just to keep peace with people who don't even know your storm. Real talk, You were not created to be average, but if you keep abandoning yourself for the sake of acceptance, you're going to live a life that's beneath you, a life that's out of sync with your soul. You gotta sit down, get quiet, and ask yourself, who am I really? Not what do I do, not what's on my resume, not what my family expects of me, not what my followers like about me. Who am I? What drives me? What breaks me? What am I willing to fight for when nobody's watching? What do I believe in when the noise dies down? What do I stand for when the lights go off and the cameras stop rolling? That's the version of you that needs to come to the front. Not the fake one, not the performance, the real one. Because here's the thing, once you own your identity, you start moving differently. You walk into rooms with your head high, not because you're arrogant, but because you know you belong. You stop comparing yourself to everyone else because you understand your assignment is different. You stop wasting time trying to fix what was never broken in you, and you start building. You build habits that align with your truth. You build relationships that support your vision. You build a mindset that protects your peace. You build a lifestyle that reflects your worth. And the moment you start showing up as your full self, people around you will either respect it or remove themselves, and either way, you win. You don't need permission to be who you are. You don't need confirmation. You don't need applause. The only thing you need is the courage to step out of the box they put you in. The only thing you need is the commitment to keep showing up as your authentic self, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely, even when it's misunderstood. Because owning your identity isn't about being accepted, it's about being aligned. It's about waking up every day and saying, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I believe, and this is how I'm moving. That's where the power is, that's where the freedom is, that's where the success is. Not in pretending, not in pleasing, not in performing, but in owning, in honoring, in standing tall in your truth even when the world wants you to bow. Because when you finally stop hiding, when you finally stop running, when you finally stop shape-shifting to make everybody else happy, that's when you'll start living on your terms in your purpose, with your name, your gift, your voice, your fire, and your truth leading the way labels don't. Define you, actions do. I don't care what they called you growing up. I don't care if they said you were dumb, lazy, a troublemaker, a nobody. That's what they said, but that's not who you are. You let too many people who don't even know your heart speak on your name. You let too many people who gave up on their own dreams tell you what's possible for yours. They slapped a label on you, and you've been carrying it like it's your identity. But let me tell you something, that label. That's not your destiny, that's just noise. What defines you is what you do when nobody's watching. What defines you is how you move when life gets hard. What defines you is how you respond to the fire. See, everybody got an opinion, but they don't live with your decisions. They don't know your battle. They don't know your hunger. They don't know the nights you stayed up crying, praying, pushing through, grinding while everybody else was sleeping. But you know what the world sees. They see the label. They see the surface. They see the headlines. They don't see the grind behind the curtain. And if you're not careful, you'll let their version of you become your own. You'll internalize it, you'll start to believe it, and once you believe it, you start to live it. That's how they win. That's how the world traps you. But hear me loud, your actions have the power to rip those labels off your life. You don't have to accept what they handed you. You don't have to carry that name, that judgment, that weight. The moment you decide to outwork the stereotype, the moment you decide to outgrow their expectations, you begin to rewrite your story. And you ain't gotta explain it to nobody. Just show up. Just do the work. Just live in purpose so loud that every lie ever spoken about you gets silenced. Not with arguments, not with clapbacks, with results. They said you were too weak. Prove them wrong with strength. They said you wouldn't make it out. Show them how far you've come. They said you weren't leadership material. Then walk into every room like you own the mission. Because they can label you all day long, but the truth is revealed in your actions, in your habits, in your consistency, in your character. Not your reputation, your character. Reputation is what they say you are. Character is what you prove you are. Character is built in silence, and it screams through your results. You got people out here wearing masks just to survive in environments that were never meant for them. You got kids pretending to be hard because if they show any emotion, they get mocked. You got grown adults chasing clout just to distract from how lost they feel. That's what happens when we let labels dictate behavior. You stop living from your truth and start performing based on people's lies. But performance is exhausting. It drains your spirit. It makes you doubt yourself, and eventually it breaks you. You need to get to a place where you say, I don't care what you call me, I know who I am. That's where freedom lives. That's where confidence is born, not from applause, not from likes, but from alignment. When your internal belief system matches your external actions, there's nothing anybody can say that can shake you. They can lie on you, they can slander your name, but they can't stop your assignment. And when your assignment is real, your actions will speak louder than any label ever could. You've got to stop reacting to every opinion and start building evidence. Real evidence, waking up early, staying locked in, taking ownership of your craft, being consistent even when no one is clapping, pushing yourself when nobody is watching. That's how you erase the label. You replace it with a legacy. That's how you silence critics. You let your fruit speak, let your growth speak, let your impact speak. Stop arguing, evolve. Stop defending, elevate. Stop doubting, execute. You don't need to beg for respect when your work demands it. You don't need to chase validation when your grind confirms your greatness. You don't need to announce your growth. Let the shift speak for itself. But you have to make a decision. Are you going to wear the label they gave you, or are you going to live the purpose you were created for? You can't do both. You can't be tied to your past and walk fully into your future at the same time. You've got to cut something loose. You were never meant to be a statistic. You were never meant to play small just because they couldn't handle your shine. You were never meant to fit into their little box. You were meant to break limits. You were meant to go further. You were meant to change the narrative for everybody watching you, waiting to see if it's possible to rise after being labeled, after being overlooked, after being doubted, after being talked about, after being broken. And the answer is yes, but only if you move from identity, not insecurity. Only if your actions are louder than their assumptions. Only if you get up every single day with one mission. Prove it to yourself you're not what you've been through. I don't care how messy it got. I don't care how dark it was. I don't care what they said about you, what happened in your childhood, who walked out on you, who left you broken, who told you you'd never be anything. You are not your pain. You are not your failure. You are not your trauma. You are not the worst thing you ever did or the worst thing that ever happened to you. That stuff, yeah, it shaped you, but it doesn't own you. What happened to you is part of your story, but it's not your identity. See, too many people walking around acting like their past is their name tag. You got people introducing themselves as their mistakes. I'm a dropout. I'm a single parent. I'm a failure. I'm broken. And they walk with that label, they breathe with that label, and they start making decisions from that mindset. But let me tell you, that's a lie from the pit. That's not who you are. That's just what you went through. That's a chapter, not the whole book. That's a scar, not the whole body. That's a moment, not your mission. You gotta stop rehearsing the pain and start rewriting the pattern. You keep playing that memory in your head over and over, and it's paralyzing you. You keep telling the same story about how it all went wrong, and now you're stuck. But if you want to change your life, you gotta own your identity, not your injury. You gotta stop waking up every day identifying as a victim. I get it, it was real, it was hard, it hurt, you didn't deserve it, but you're still breathing. That means purpose still exists. That means power still lives inside you. That means your story isn't over. I know what it feels like to be counted out, to be misunderstood, to be blamed for stuff that wasn't even your fault. I know what it's like to be the one people gave up on, the one they laughed at, the one they doubted. But let me tell you, there's a version of you inside that ain't scared of none of that. There's a version of you that's stronger than the struggle, wiser because of the storm, better because of the betrayal. You just haven't activated that version yet because you're still trying to recover from the last blow. But what if I told you the pain wasn't meant to stop you, it was meant to shape you? What if I told you that the very thing that almost broke you is going to be the reason you break through? What if I told you your pain has a purpose, but you'll never find it until you own who you are now, not who you used to be? You keep mourning the old you, but the old you had to die so the real you could live. The old you was surviving, the new you is ready to thrive. You gotta make peace with your past, not marry it. You gotta stop dragging your history into every opportunity. Stop filtering your future through your failures. Stop believing that because it didn't work back then, it can't work now. That's not truth, that's trauma talking. And as long as you let trauma speak louder than truth, you'll never walk in your real identity. Because your identity isn't found in the fire, it's found in how you came out of it. Your identity isn't the fall, it's the fight you showed getting back up. Don't tell me you're weak, you're here. You're still here after all of it. That means you got more power than you even realize. You're still showing up, you're still pushing, you're still dreaming, and that tells me everything I need to know about you. That tells me you're not average. That tells me you're not soft. That tells me you were built for the climb. But the problem is, you've been so busy surviving that you forgot who you were before life hit you. So let me remind you, you are not broken, you are not worthless, you are not some mistake walking around waiting for something good to happen. You are chosen, you are strong, you are necessary, you are equipped. You are called, and the world needs the real you to show up. Not the version of you that's hiding behind the pain, not the version that's afraid to be seen, not the version that's still looking for permission. The real you, the healed you, the bold you, the clear, focused, grounded, fire-filled, identity-driven you. You've spent enough time letting your story own you. Now it's time to flip the script, own your truth. Own your fight, own your grind, own your identity. Because no matter what they did to you, no matter what didn't go right, no matter how many times life tried to knock you off course, you're still here. And you still have the authority to decide who you are and what you become. You're never going to reach your full potential trying to be somebody else. I don't care how successful they look, how many followers they got, how loud their voice is, you trying to copy their walk, their tone, their grind, and you wonder why your soul feels empty. You wonder why your fire don't burn the same. It's because you're not walking in your truth. You're chasing approval, not walking in authenticity. And the crazy part, you'll never get approval from people who don't even know who they are. You out here shrinking yourself, silencing yourself, reshaping yourself to make people who ain't even real with themselves comfortable. And what's worse, you losing pieces of who you are just to be accepted by people who don't even accept themselves. Let me be real with you. The game changed for me when I stopped performing and started being. When I looked in the mirror and said, this is who I am, this is my voice, this is how I move, this is how I talk, this is how I love, this is how I lead, and I'm not gonna apologize for it anymore. That's when I found peace, not in applause, not in validation, not in somebody clapping for me, but in walking with alignment, alignment with my purpose, alignment with my values, alignment with my God-given assignment. I stopped bending so people would like me, and I started standing so people would respect me, and you know what happened. The right ones showed up, the right doors opened, and the ones who weren't for me, they disappeared, and I was good with that. You keep trying to impress people who don't even matter. You're posting for likes, dressing for attention, moving for applause, but none of that's real. That's smoke. That's temporary. That's empty calories for your soul. You eating, but you still starving. You surrounded by noise, but your spirit feels quiet. You look successful, but you feel lost, because deep down you know this ain't you. You know you've been faking. You know you've been shrinking. You know you've been editing yourself every day just to keep the peace. But let me tell you, peace that costs you yourself is too expensive. I don't care how good it looks on the outside if you gotta abandon your truth to keep it. It's not a blessing, it's a prison. Authenticity ain't easy, it's not flashy, it's not always celebrated. Sometimes being real will cost you relationships. Sometimes it'll make people uncomfortable. Sometimes you'll feel isolated, but I'd rather walk alone in my truth than be surrounded by people who only love my mask. I'd rather lose followers than lose myself. Because when you're real, when you're raw, when you stop hiding, when you stop filtering, when you stop pretending, that's when the right people show up. The people who see you, feel you, honor you. Not the performance, you. Let me ask you this, who are you when nobody's looking? Who are you when the phone is down, when the camera's off, when the lights are out? Are you the same person? Or are you just showing people a version of you you think they'll like? Because I promise you, the world doesn't need another duplicate. The world doesn't need another fake smile, another watered-down voice, another echo of somebody else's truth. The world needs your voice. Your tone, your rhythm, your gift. But they'll never get it if you're too busy trying to be accepted. Stop playing small. Stop changing your personality in every room. Stop hiding your fire to make others feel safe. If your presence makes people uncomfortable, that's not your problem, it's their insecurity. You weren't called to blend in. You were called to break barriers. You were called to stand out. You were called to speak when others are silent. You were called to shine when the room goes dark. But that light don't come from approval. It comes from authenticity, from being real enough to say, "This is who I am, and I'm not shrinking for you anymore." You don't need their permission. You don't need their praise. You don't need their pat on the back. What you need is yourself, your full self, unapologetic, unedited, unafraid. You need the version of you that doesn't ask, "Will they like me?" but declares, "This is me." Because when you show up as you, you give others permission to do the same. When you stop faking, you create space for healing. When you stop performing, you create space for purpose, and that purpose is more powerful than any applause you could ever chase. You weren't built to be a copy. You weren't born to perform. You weren't designed to fit into their little box. You were created with precision, with power, with passion, and when you own that, when you wear that like a badge on your chest, when you walk in rooms and bring the real you, everything changes. You stop chasing. You stop proving, you stop explaining, you just are, and that's the most dangerous, powerful, unstoppable version of you that ever existed. Your identity is your power, not your money, not your followers, not your titles, not your resume. Your real strength doesn't come from what you do, it comes from knowing exactly who you are. See, when you're clear on who you are, you stop begging for things that already belong to you. You stop chasing things that were never meant for you. You stop folding under pressure, because pressure doesn't break people who know who they are, it builds them. That's why the enemy don't come after your skills, he comes after your identity. Because if he can get you to forget who you are, he knows he can control everything else in your life. When you don't know your identity, you become a slave to every trend, every opinion, every voice louder than your own. You become reactive. You start moving in circles. You say yes when you should say no. You compromise your values for approval. You adjust your vision based on who's clapping. And before you know it, you're off course, wondering why your soul feels empty. It's because you gave up your power the moment you gave up your identity. And if you've been living like that, it's time to take it back. I'm talking today, right now. You gotta reclaim who you are and stop letting this world define you. The most dangerous person in the room ain't the loudest, it ain't the strongest, it's the one who knows exactly who they are. That's the one you can't manipulate. That's the one who doesn't need the spotlight because they are the light. That's the one who moves with purpose, not permission. Because when you know who you are, you don't chase, you attract. You don't compete, you create. You don't flinch, you focus. That's the power of identity. It grounds you, it sharpens you, it protects you from becoming everything this world wants to mold you into. You think you're confused because you don't have answers, no. You're confused because you don't have identity. You keep starting and quitting, you keep shifting directions, you keep second guessing everything, but when you lock into your identity, you stop hesitating, you start moving with clarity, you stop fearing failure because failure doesn't define you, identity does. You're no longer afraid to stand alone because your identity already told you, I wasn't made to blend in, I was made to build. But here's the problem, you've let your environment tell you who you are. You've let your mistakes become your label. You've let people who were never qualified to speak into your life rename you. And now you're walking around in costumes, not armor. You're performing instead of producing. You're looking outward for validation instead of inward for truth. And the longer you live like that, the more your power drains out. Not because it's gone, but because you forgot how to access it. That's why identity is everything. It's your anchor when life gets crazy. It's your compass when you lose direction. It's your fire when motivation dies out. When you know who you are, you stop trying to prove yourself to people who don't even know your value. You stop shrinking for rooms that weren't built for your greatness. You stop chasing after things that break you. You start choosing different. You start walking different. You start demanding different. Not because you're arrogant, but because you finally remembered who you are. You are not what they called you. You are not what you lost. You are not what you failed. You are not who left. You are not your lowest moment. You are not your weakness. You are not your insecurity. You are who you fight to become every single day. You are who you show up as when nobody's watching. You are who God said you were before the world ever had an opinion. That version of you, that's where your power is. Not the perfect version, the authentic one, the raw one, the one that doesn't need to be edited, approved, filtered, or explained. You've been living disconnected from your power because you've been disconnected from your identity. You keep grinding, but you don't feel fulfilled. You keep achieving, but you don't feel whole. That's because you've been building a life based on somebody else's blueprint. But let me tell you something, your calling doesn't need a copy. It needs you. It needs your voice, your vision, your fire, your scars, your story. But only if you bring you to the table, not the version you think people will like more. You're not here by accident. You weren't made to live on autopilot. You were born to shake the ground, but only if you walk in your truth. You're not powerful because of what you've been through. You're powerful because of what you carried through it. You're powerful because you didn't quit, because you didn't cave, because you didn't let the world make you forget your name. You kept showing up, you kept building, you kept standing, even when it was lonely. Even when it was quiet, even when it was dark. That right there, that's identity in motion. Your name has value. Act like it. I don't care where you came from. I don't care what neighborhood you grew up in. I don't care what they called your family. I don't care what your last name used to represent. Today, you need to understand something deep. When your name is attached to something, it should mean excellence. It should mean grit. It should mean integrity. It should mean follow through, because your name is not just letters, it's legacy. It's your identity in motion, and too many people walking around like their name is worthless. Too many people walking around like they forgot who they are. But you got a start moving like your name carries weight. You show up late. You quit halfway. You make promises you don't keep. You start things with no discipline to finish them. And then you wonder why nobody takes you seriously. It's not because you're not capable, it's because you've allowed your habits to discredit your name. And the sad part is, people will forget what you said, but they'll remember your name. They'll remember how you moved. They'll remember whether or not you followed through. They'll remember if your name showed up with power or excuses. You're walking into rooms trying to convince people you're something when your name should speak before you even say a word. Your actions should already vouch for you. Your character should be loud before you open your mouth. Your reputation should echo behind you and say, he don't play with his time. She don't fold under pressure. That one's solid. But you can't build that kind of reputation on luck. You build it with consistency. You build it when nobody's watching. You build it when it's inconvenient. You build it when you feel tired, hurt, overlooked, but you still show up. because every time you move, your name is either gaining value or losing it. You got people out here repping brands harder than they rep their own last name. You got folks flexing someone else's logo, but can't even stand tall behind their own identity. Why are you giving all your energy to building someone else's vision when you've neglected your own? Why are you posting for attention when you should be grinding for honor? Let me tell you, the greatest investment you can make is in your name. Not for ego, not for fame, but for legacy. Because one day, your name will be spoken in rooms you never stepped in. The only question is, what will it represent? You think it's just about you, but it's bigger than that. Your name is attached to your children. Your name is attached to your decisions. Your name is tied to your community, your circle, your story. Every day you show up sloppy, you're teaching people that your name means nothing. Every time you give up, you tell the world that your name is built on excuses. But when you dig deep, when you stay focused, when you refuse to compromise your principles, even when it costs you, you elevate your name. You can't talk about success if you don't protect your name. You can't talk about leadership if your name don't carry respect. You can't talk about legacy if your name is lightweight. You want to build wealth, start with your name. You want to build influence, start with your name. You want to change the game, start with your name, because your name will open more doors than your resume ever could, or slam them shut faster than your failures ever will. You've been moving like your name is replaceable. Like it don't matter, like it's okay to coast, like it's cool to cut corners, but one day somebody's going to Google your name, somebody's going to ask about you, somebody's going to say, you know him, you know her, and in that moment, your name will speak. The question is, what's it going to say? What kind of echo are you leaving behind every interaction, every opportunity, every challenge? Are people going to say you showed up with fire, or that you folded under pressure? Are they going to say you were real, or that you switched up when it got hard? You need to take back control of your name. You need to protect it like it's sacred, because it is. You can't get another one. You don't get a second identity. This ain't a video game. You don't respond with a clean slate. Your name is your fingerprint on the earth, and every day you're either sharpening it or smearing it. You've been casual with something that's critical. You've been passive with something that's priceless. You've been inconsistent with something that was meant to represent greatness. The truth is, the world might not remember every detail about you, but they'll remember the energy your name carried. They'll remember how they felt when you walked in. They'll remember whether your name meant something, not because you were flashy, not because you were loud, but because when your name showed up, work got done. Standards got raised, people paid attention. That's what power looks like. That's what legacy sounds like. That's what identity feels like, not in your talk, but in the weight your name brings with it every time you walk in a room.